Hello, welcome to Advancing Adaptability, a COE webinar about integrating Cameo Systems Modeler and Teamwork Cloud into PLM. Today, I'll be talking about different strategies that you can use in order to integrate the Cameo suite of products with both PLM or other types of systems, depending on what your needs are. And then the strengths and weaknesses of each of those different strategies, along with a little bit of a demo for each as well. We're going to start today with a brief ProStep overview, then discuss a little bit the integration tools that are used with this Cameo and Teamwork Cloud integration, and then demonstrate the three strategies that we're using for this integration, and then take a look at the tools underneath again with OpenPDM tools and some examples as well of what that is. ProStep was started about 30 years ago. Out of a consortium in Germany in order to make interoperability easier with engineering data. So they created ProStep AG, which is our parent company, ProStep Inc. here, as well as the ProStep IVIP Association on the lower left. That's our sister company, a nonprofit standards body. So you see ProStep ownership at the bottom here, mostly automotive OEMs and tier ones within Germany, and really starting with ProStep IVIP and that step 214 standard, but then leading into additional standards. So today, ProStep IVIP is working on a wide variety of different standards, trying to make interoperability a little bit easier across engineering and manufacturing ecosystems. So focusing on things like collaborative digital twin, cross-system lifecycle collaboration, and other types of standards like RecIF and JT, Step 242, LOTAR, other things like that. So ProStep Inc. and ProStep AG share a lot of the same type of common interoperability formats and concepts. And we're trying to really drive forward the commercial component to that to make sure that there's solutions available to industry as well as services there. One thing that makes ProStep unique is our technology partners. We are fairly vendor neutral, so we don't resell specifically any of these different technologies, but we do partner with these organizations in order to provide access to the different integration points and APIs that these solutions have so that we can then develop connectors, get releases of the product software to test it against and do things like this. As well as services partners in some cases in order to assist in projects that they might have running to bring up a new PLM or to integrate, as part of one of the projects that they have. We've been long-term partners with Dassault Systems, starting with a CAA partnership many years ago, 20 plus years ago. And developing tools for VPM v4 and VPM v5. We had good connectors for those Innovia products. And then all the way through modern 3DX and supporting Smart Team and Matrix and other tools in between as well. And also custom CATIA development as part of that. We also partner with Siemens, though, in providing our Teamcenter connectors, as well as CAD controllers for NX, TCIC, IPAM, and SolidWorks and SWIM, and Teamcenter Enterprise, and doing integration, migration, and data exchange with Siemens and Siemens tools. Also PTC with Windchill connectors, Creo CAD controllers, ThingWorx integration, and we're on the ThingWorx marketplace, as well as Integrity, now Windchill RVNS integration. Ultimately, ProStep's goal is to enable these heterogeneous different vendor solutions from different domains, digital thread. So that might be providing these connectors or processes in order to exchange data and move it across the product lifecycle. or maybe collaborate between different systems, or provide traceability depending on the different architecture that you might be using. But enabling these with the best system that's suited for your environment, and that could be one that you have as a legacy that works well for you, but maybe doesn't work well with another vendor system that you're putting in place. And we're here in order to solve that challenge specifically. Before getting into some of the demos, we'll take a look at some integration tools that we're providing and kind of a general overview of the strategy that ProStep is using in order to provide this type of integration. So ProStep's digital thread platform really starts with the application data and the different applications that your organization is running today. And I'm not talking about the client-based applications in general. I'm looking at the authoritative source of truth within the repositories that you use in order to configuration manage that data. So that could be your PLM, that could be your ALM or ERP or CRM or requirements management system or others like that. But being able to start at that layer then enables you to carry that authority and the authoritative source of truth throughout the product lifecycle. So on top of that, what we do is leverage our OpenPDM connectors that provide an API-based integration to each of these different repositories. So you can use these connectors in order to kind of effectively neutralize that data from any of those different systems that have been connected into an internal OpenPDM format that makes it very easy in order to do data transactions like export, transform, and import type of transactions, or to provide references between different data sets with linking type of integration. On top of that, we've got an integration layer. And these are different tools that we use in order to work with the connectors that then work with the backbone application data behind the scenes in order to provide that transaction. So that starts really with that orchestration layer and what we call the OpenPDM process server. That then enables you in order to create your own workflows in a BPMN type of fashion in order to provide the functionality that you need for the specific use cases. It also has mapping engines and nice administrative monitoring, a batch processing framework, so you can do CAD processing and parallelize that amongst multiple systems, as well as do secure file transfer and manage file transfer. And those are all really, core components of the 3 different products that we offer at ProStep. So the OpenPDM is the one that you'll see today that enables that type of federation with linked data and replication of data between systems, data exchanged and managed file transfer with our OpenDXM Global X product that also has deep integration into PLM, so you can enable this type of data exchange more seamlessly using the PLM interface, selecting where it needs to go, who needs to get it, what format it needs to be in, click go, and it'll send it away. And then our newest product, OpenCLM, that leverages these different connectors to provide just traceable links to enable configuration lifecycle management across different domains and across the different systems. So real digital thread capability and configuration management, with workflow processes and baselining and other things like that. The tool OpenPDM is really designed as a comprehensive integration platform for engineering and manufacturing data. So that might be how to move data across the product lifecycle from drafting to design, production, and service, but also how to combine data in kind of a more vertical fashion between the different disciplines. It could be model-based systems engineering or requirements or electrical or CAD or software, all sorts of different systems, concurrently developing what your products are. It's about 25 years old, and it's really matured over those different 25 years to provide a pretty comprehensive suite of solutions and kind of a refined best practice on how to do this type of cross-vendor integration. Got quite a few different connectors for OpenPDM. You see at the bottom, you've got like 3DX, the Smart Team, Arena, Windchill, Teamcenter, Aris, Innovator, Contact, and others. On the right-hand side, you see connectors for Codebeamer, Integrity, Polarian, the Dassault Cameo No Magic connector. That's specifically a Teamwork Cloud connector that we're going to see today in the demo. And as well as ERP, IoT systems, and different interfaces and standards that we use in order to provide some of this interoperability. So every connector is bundled with web services, and it has a RESTful interface that's documented in Swagger that's within the connector itself. So you can test out all the different queries for a connector and develop your own connectivity through OpenPDM connectors. We also have an OSLC provider that's going to be used within one of these demonstrations as well in order to provide OSLC to the Cameo datahub, as well as other different formats like OAGIS used for MES integration or STEP AP242. We have a pretty comprehensive STEP toolkit that will enable you to not just do the geometry, but enable you to create the PLM data within STEP. That could be like manufacturing information or different BOM configurations and other types of data like that as well. And really, this is all driven from that OpenPDM connector technology. So you see at the bottom different types of systems that have been connected, and then above that, that system connector and a single interface that is above that. And that's that OpenPDM REST API. But what we're trying to illustrate here is that we're neutralizing all that data. That also means that you can, with the OSLC provider from OpenPDM, make any of these different systems OSLC enabled. So in a demonstration today, we're providing a Teamcenter connector with OSLC, but that could be any of these other different systems and providing interoperability through OSLC for those, or through the REST API and the other services that we might provide to do those types of transactions. So with that introduction, I'd like to get into the three different strategies we have for Cameo integration and show demos of each of them. Now, they each have maybe some strengths and weaknesses. We can get into that a little bit, and they're driven by different interfaces and automated in some cases as well, and through different API layers. So there are real differences between these three different integrations, and some might serve your organization better than others, but that might be dependent on what your needs are and somewhat subjective. So the three ways we're going to integrate with Cameo are first, the Teamwork Cloud integration between Teamwork Cloud and Teamcenter. Second, our Cameo client plugin integration that enables interoperability between the client and Cameo Systems Modeler to Teamcenter through a plugin in the OpenPDM connector. And third, the Cameo datahub OSLC integration. So this is using the connector with that OpenPDM OSLC provider, and then the native capabilities of the OSLC consumer within the Cameo datahub in order to integrate there. Comparing them, they are all very different. The Teamwork Cloud integration is the repository of that data in many cases, enables concurrent developers in order to work with that data. So there's an advantage there with Teamwork Cloud, but also it doesn't have the interactive nature that maybe the other two do to search and select, and is more workflow driven, right? And the second one, the Cameo client plugin, this works very well for replicating data. So for taking data out or putting data into the different systems that OpenPDM connectors can provide. So in this case, I think we're pulling a bill of materials from Teamcenter and importing it into Cameo Systems Modeler. But with that, also, maybe it's a little bit of a heavier weight integration and providing, maybe a more formalized, mapping and approach versus something that might be a little bit lighter weight, like the third one, the Cameo datahub OSLC integration that just has a traceable OSLC link. So the only thing that we're really saving here is the URI within the Cameo Systems Modeler that then enables a real-time federated query of the data when you go and take a look at it. So there's some flexibility in then how that's mapped and how it's updated, and doesn't then need a replication of the data because it's just a single link, right? And a little bit more lightweight of an integration, but maybe not providing all the data that you might need that could be possibly provided in the other two types of integration scenarios. So the first demo we're going to do is the Teamwork Cloud integration. And this is using the OpenPDM process server, the Teamwork Cloud connector, and the Teamcenter connector. Now, the Teamcenter connector could be substituted for really any OpenPDM connector. So, it's using the same basic principles, but it could be SAP or Integrity or, Windchill or any other system supported by OpenPDM. In this, what we're going to do is start with a trigger. This trigger is going to be started from the OpenPDM process server, but this could be any web service, RESTful, trigger prod that typically comes from like a workflow or a user exit, like an event from a system, things like that, so that we can automate these processes to go behind the scenes at a regular interval that makes sense with the product lifecycle. With that trigger, we start a process within the process server, and that has an export component using the Teamwork Cloud connector, a mapping component with a mapping service, and an import component, in this case with the Teamcenter connector, resulting in data being pulled from Teamwork Cloud and then pushed into Teamcenter. So let's see that. So we start within the Cameo Systems Modeler, and there we're going to connect to the Teamwork Cloud and then show some of the data that's available there that's going to be part of this integration process. So we open up that project. We've got test data here. That's our Mars rover. It's a little JPL, Raspberry Pi powered Mars open source project, right? But we've developed a lot of test data within various systems in order to build demonstrators like this with it. So we've got a set of requirements data that's been documented within Cameo Systems Modeler. And we're showing that here so that we can run this process and replicate it into Teamcenter. Now we're logging into Teamcenter with our demo account. And then we can take a look and query within Teamcenter to make sure that the data doesn't exist. And this is showing that the data was created live in effect. Yeah. So we're going to go in and query, and at this date, make sure that the data is not created. We hit search, and we are good to go. We see nothing. So within the OpenPDM process server, like I was saying, we're going to manually start this process. We've already defined what that is. And so, it already has the keys that are available. And we're going to go ahead and refresh that and see it in the queue. You see that it's running and it's already at that import step. So if we refresh that again, we can take a look at the process instance. And here you see each step within the process, how long it took, and you can bring up different reports, right? So it shows an export, a mapping, and an import. Looking at the import step, you can see the mapping before and after. We can take a look at different ways of formatting that data, like showing graphs of what the import data was. So you see that we've created these requirement revisions, which is the data type within Teamcenter of the requirement structure there, as well as the relationships that bind that requirement structure. So we go back into Teamcenter, we can search for it, and we see a lot of new data. These are the requirements that have been mapped from Teamwork Cloud. And we go ahead and find the top level requirement too, and search for it. We see that technical requirement. We can go ahead and browse it, and you see the same structure here that was shown before, along with the breakdown. So this is sorting the requirements structurally, the same detailed text and things like that. So the second type of demo we're going to do is the Cameo plugin integration. And this is a plugin directly into the Cameo client, it's the Systems Modeler client, that then enables you to pull up an interface and search for data, be able to pull data in. In some cases, if you wanted to, we could also push the data and then configure the Cameo plugin to do the type of use cases that you're interested in. So this has the advantage that if you have a user that wants to directly pull in the authoritative source of truth from, let's say, the Teamcenter bill of materials, that's something we're demonstrating right now, then you can go ahead and do that through here. Disadvantage is that it is a user, it's user-driven, being that it's in a client, it's not a repository kind of authoritative data as well, but it could be shared to Teamwork Cloud or something else, right, once it's already committed here. Now, this works with a REST integration directly to our OpenPDM connector. In this case, we're using Teamcenter as an example system throughout the 3 demos, but again, this could be substituted for a different system, and Windchill or 3DX or any other system could be used here. In this case, it also uses the Teamcenter SOA, and you'll see it do a Teamcenter authentication and run through processes like that. So we start with Cyber Systems Engineer on the left and Teamcenter on the right. Go to our folders directory for our demo user. You see that there's a rover folder, a rover assembly, and new stuff, and mailbox. So standard Teamcenter. I've just logged in. This is what I see. And then we log into Teamcenter through the OpenPDM connector. So behind the scenes, this is communicating through OpenPDM and then to Teamcenter from that OpenPDM connector. And for ease of use, we're replicating that home directory there. So you see that folder, and you can take a look and what's the contents of the folder would be, as well as some attributes. And you can search for data as well. So in the search menu, we can pick what type we're looking for, and an item ID, and then with a wildcard search, find a bunch of them. We then can select that. So we click on our head assembly. You see all the different properties that might be available. We can kind of do a cross-reference of what that looks like as well from the rover head assembly that's available already within Teamcenter and the properties and bill of materials there. Yeah. So with that, we can go ahead and select it within our plugin. Hit File, Import to Cameo. We need to pick a revision rule because this is Teamcenter, and then we can filter based on the level, and then where we want to put it. So select within Cameo where the location is to pull that data into, and then there's a dialog. It'll export the data from Teamcenter, and then import the data into Cameo within this structure folder here. So we see that that's complete. In blue within Cameo, you've got the head assembly. You've got the same product structure layout that you had within Teamcenter as well of that head assembly. And then all the properties, that you might have, including, some file references and other things as well that come with it. So you see the BOM properties there. You see the hyperlinks that are directly in Teamcenter. So we're not copying the files, but providing a reference to those files. And that respects the authentication mechanisms of Teamcenter as well. So you can't get there without authenticating to Teamcenter. But then you can go ahead and add something within Teamcenter. We're going to add to the bill of materials a new part. And then show an update process. So, once you've already synchronized the data from a cyber systems engineer once, you might need to update it and get a new part incorporated, or new content. So you can go back to cyber systems engineer and then go to the Teamcenter and sync Teamcenter data tab. Again, select the revision rule that you want and at the BOM level. Which is all, and then we can go ahead and resynchronize it, and you'll see that the new part then shows up on the left-hand side as part of this process. So with that, we go ahead and search for the new part and find that. And you have a dialog as well that shows what's been created or changed. So kind of the second way that you can work within Cameo to integrate through OpenPDM to gather data this way. The third way that we can integrate with Cameo through OpenPDM is via OSLC. Now, the Cameo Systems Modeler client has the Cameo datahub integrated into it that is an OSLC compatible consumer. And with OpenPDM, we can make any of these connected systems, like Teamcenter in this case, an OSLC provider with a mapping between our connector and our OSLC, OpenPDM OSLC provider. So then the Cameo Systems Modeler through datahub will interact with the OSLC provider. You can set that bridge up, and then the OSLC provider will authenticate through the Teamcenter connector and import-export data through that channel. The OSLC bridge can be configured to support the types of schema and mapping that you need, as well as the different delegated UI components that you might be looking for. So there are some default ones that are just general query, search and select for parts and other business objects, but we could also extend that to other things that might be import use cases, other export use cases, other schema definitions, depending on what your needs are. So we start with Cyber Systems Engineer here, and we've got our Mars rover data. That includes an LED display or a rover head, and our Cameo Data Hub Explorer is already pulled up. So we're going to take a look and log into Teamcenter at some data that we might want to reference through OSLC and create those traceable links. Now OSLC, what it does through the Data Hub is create just like a web type of link, a URI, that then directly references the data within Teamcenter. And then when you want to go and look at it later, it actually pulls that data in every time you look at it through kind of a live federation of data. So we saw some of the data that we wanted to look at, and we're going to go ahead and select the rover head. We're going to connect our OSLC provider. This setup then, needs to authenticate to the OSLC provider and then also authenticate through into Teamcenter. So that authentication is going on there. We then go to hyperlinks, create a new hyperlink, and we'll use that with our RM provider. In this case, you see the little the ProStep logo on the lower right. This is what's called a delegated UI in OSLC. So this little HTML frame is actually provided by the OSLC bridge, and then shown here. Now you can customize what those are to support really different use cases as well. So if you want to interact with other data in the system, you can create other delegated UIs to handle that. So now that that's created, you see the little DH link, you see the OSLC preview, it's got a bunch of attributes. It also has different places where you can select, click through, and hyperlinks that might be able to provide files as well. So we can go ahead and do this again, on the LED display. So we'll go and look for that part. We need to know what the identifier is, or be able to search for it, right, for what that part is. It also shows some bill of materials, and that's just because of the mapping that we have within this implementation of the Teamcenter and OSLC preview and OSLC links there. So we go ahead, select, find that within Teamcenter, search through the OpenPDM OSLC interface, grab that, create the link type, so you get some OSLC link type definition that you can provide here, and then go ahead and create it there, and you also see the datahub icon there. Part of this is being able to click through and have easy access to the Teamcenter content. So in this case, we're enabling the click through to the files, but you still need to authenticate through the Teamcenter integration there. So when you click and open the web, it will ask you to authenticate. It's already been authenticated in this web client example. Now that the demos are complete, we're going to take a look at OpenPDM and the architecture underneath it, as well as some process examples and other technology that we're using. The OpenPDM high-level architecture looks a little bit like this. You see in the middle, we've got our OpenPDM orchestration layer. That's a BPMN workflow engine based on Camunda that enables you to build these different use cases for transacting data fairly straightforward. And it's got plugins for all the different services that we provide, like the connectors, the CAD controllers, and these different services you see on the lower right. Some of those services are the batch processing framework. That's a mechanism for parallelizing translation, like for CAD, but could be used for other purposes. We've got a Delta and a mapping engine that enable you to map data or do comparisons of data that are within system versus what's been mapped. And then we've other services like notification services and collaboration services and things like that. On the lower left, you've got our connector layer, which is really the power of OpenPDM. And we've got different connectors that could be plugged into the system. We also have what we call a CAD controller. And that's a specific connector that powers a CAD PLM combination like J-Link and Creo or SWIM and Teamcenter or something like that. On the top, we've got different interfaces. So we've got a RESTful interface for both the connectors directly or the orchestration layer. We also have OSLC provider and monitoring tools and administrative interfaces. As well as a trigger interface that you can use in order to start these different orchestration processes. So that could be a time-based trigger or a REST event or an email trigger or manually done, right? So a lot of different combinations to start those processes. So with OpenPDM 9, we switched our architecture a little bit back in 2019 to a microservices model. So these could be deployed on Docker or Kubernetes and allow some flexibility for moving between environments and really modularization of the overall architecture. We also, in the future, are looking to provide data as a service and integration platform as a service for different cloud-enabled integration architectures. Many of our customers are still on-prem, but we support these different architectures with OpenPDM 9. You see some of the different OSLC provider and other services there that we can use and plug together depending on what your needs are. An example of OpenPDM integrating with multiple systems is shown here. And you see that the commonality is really that OpenPDM Bibo REST interface. So that same information and query engine is neutralizing all the data from the other systems. And then we enable this type of workflow to be put together fairly seamlessly and without a lot of effort. So you could be pulling data out of Eris or Windchill, or pulling and pushing and combining data, mapping it, doing translation of CAD documents or other types of documents, and then finally importing. And you can do this between different systems depending on what your needs are, or with your system. We have the ability in order to create a connector based on the OpenPDM connector interface, depending on your needs. So a lot of flexibility in developing the workflow and processing the data to fit your needs. OpenPDM has been around for a while, and we've got a lot of different customers that use it in different types of industries. And more than are on this slide here as well. But a lot of good success stories out there with integration, with migration of data, and collaboration of data as well. Remember that ProStep is here to help. So we've got hundreds of PLM and CAD consultants. We've been doing this for 30 years. We have projects globally. And we work with the ProStep IVIP Association that develops those standards and best practices and methodologies that we use within our software too. So please, if you need some help, reach out. We'd be happy to discuss strategy. It could be that what we've demonstrated today maybe doesn't have the best fit for your organization, but we do like to work with customers to find what they need and to make sure that we can leverage our tools efficiently to provide those types of solutions. So definitely reach out if you have any questions or if you're looking for solutions. And finally, I'd like to thank you for joining our webinar today. We definitely appreciate you taking the time to learn a little bit about different strategies for Cameo integration and general integration within engineering. And we also want to thank the COE for hosting us. They've been a good partner for a long time, and we definitely appreciate it. And with that, we'll conclude our presentation today.